Welcome to my channel, everyone. I'm MJ from MJ Hobby Corner, and today, Friday, we're going to be playing the board game, Descent by Fantasy Flight Games. All right, so at the very top, we have the dice, and you see different colors of dice. There's red and yellow, which are power dice, red being the better of the two. We have the blue dice, which is your regular attack dice. And we have the defense dice, which are gray, brown, and black. Those are also used to roll attribute tests, which we'll see maybe throughout the game. If we go all the way on top, the cards, we have the store card, which is the store deck, which is basically where I could go shopping after the quest and buy additional gear. And then we have the search cards, which are associated with a search token that is on the board. And anytime I come across these tokens, I can search, spend an action to search, and then just pick a card from that deck. Whatever it is, it is. That's the card that gives loot and treasure. Now, the next three decks are the condition decks, and these are bad things, kind of like conditions that affect movement, like immobilized or stunned. We have a condition that is poison, and then the very last, the skull, is things like disease, just bad things that happen. So those are on the very top. And then down below, we see all of the heroes, okay? So starting here with my Paladin, Averick Albright is his name. And we have, let's see, we have his speed in squares. We have his health, 12. His fatigue, he can take up to 4 fatigue markers. And his defense dice is gray, 1 gray dice. His attributes are down here, and that tells me the numbers that I have to roll for the different attributes, okay? And we'll see them when I play. In the card, we also have a heroic ability that I can use, and we have a heroic feat. So if I use my feat, I can only use that once per turn. I have to turn the card over, and that gives the indication that I use this feat. All hero cards have the same kind of thing going on, okay? So this is my disciple. He's a Paladin. This is my sorcerer. And then this is Sindriel, a female elf. And yeah, so there's her stats as well, okay? And she has a cool heroic feat as well. All right, so if we look on top of the cards, we have the little hearts, which are health indicators. That's what I use to keep track of health. We have a spell card in the case of Leoric, and a skill. Now, if you take a look at the skills, you notice, here is the regular deck of skills. You notice an experience point cost. And then this one, these do not have experience points costs associated with them. They do have costs down here with fatigue, but not experience. And that's because these are the starting skills for your character. So you go through the deck, you separate those that have no experience point cost, and that's your starting skills. Also, here are the starting weapons. So Sindriel has 2 weapons. My disciple has the hammer and the shield, okay? And each weapon tells you how many hands it needs. So hammer and shield, 1 hand each. So they can be equipped together. But then if I want to equip the staff, that's 2 hands. So I can only equip the staff and I can't do the shield. So it makes sense, right? All right, so everybody is ready here. And whenever using an ability or a weapon, you can exhaust it. And by exhausting, you just turn the card, and that means you've used it. At the beginning of every turn, you can go around refreshing all your exhausts, okay? And that's pretty much it, right? So here is the board, and the heroes are on one corner of the board, and the enemies are already deployed. We can see the little search markers, so I can search those and get some loot. And then at the very end here by this fire pit, we have two clergyman tokens. And these are priests that have been wounded, and I have to get to that tile and try to collect those tokens. They give me rewards. Now, to win this scenario, I have to destroy the 3 bar guests out there, and then the scenario finishes. Okay, and if I'm able to do that and collect some of the clergyman tokens, then I'll get some cool rewards. Now, Avric, my paladin, he has a token right behind him, which is the Acolyte, this one here. And basically, the Acolyte is the person that we have to escort. And so he's going to be with my paladin at all times. It gives my paladin a -1 movement, but he's pretty much dragging the Acolyte around. And so I can't lose the Acolyte, all right? And let's look at the scenario real quick. Using the Heirs of Blood quest guide, okay, that's the first batch of quests. And basically I'm playing the Acolyte of Saradin, okay? The Acolyte of Saradin is the scenario, and it is an introductory scenario. And basically there's the map that tells me how to set up my tiles, including all of the search markers, okay? And basically how many cards you can get from each search, okay? So, yeah, very cool. And then the tiles are identified by the little letters and numbers there, okay? And then we have these little connector pieces. So you can see that on the board, and that's what how every scenario has that, and that's tells me exactly how the board is set up, okay? The Goblin Archers start in the battlefield, which is right there, and then the bar guests start in the lair, which is neighboring the battlefield. Also, the Overlord, which in this case is the AI, will have what's called the basic Overlord deck, which is a deck of 15 cards. And that's for the basic game. Just like the monsters have a level, so does the Overlord, all right? So these are the cards designed for Act 1, any of the introductory scenarios. All right, and very important is the differences in levels between the creatures. This is a level 2 goblin, you can see right there, and this is a level 1 goblin. So you see just this one uses 2 yellow power dice. This one only uses 1 yellow power dice. The stats are different. These guys have more health. And basically, these are Act 2 goblins. The campaigns are split into Act 1 and Act 2. So the first series of adventures belong to Act 1. So basically, it's level 1. So these are the monsters we want to use, not these, because these are more advanced. So we're going to take these out, and then our goblin and bar guests have to be level 1. Okay, so that's important. All right, so first thing I do in a turn is start with any abilities. I don't want to use any abilities just yet, any of the heroic abilities or anything like that. So I don't want to use that yet. So we skip that. Refresh any cards that I've exhausted. In this game, there are many cards that you exhaust by turning them on their side. And that means that they're being used. That gets refreshed. So everything gets refreshed at the beginning of the turn. Number 2, equip items. Well, I think I'm going to move Avric So I want to equip his shield and his mace. Okay, so having equipped them, they're ready to go, and now I'm ready to move Averick on the board. Okay, so that ends the play session for this area. Okay, so Averick has a speed of 4, but he's at -1 because he has a token. So he's going to move 3. So I think I want to move him out 1, 2, and 3 right to that search token. And the little acolyte follows him. So there is a search token. So I'm going to, let's see, how many cards does that give me? Yeah, not that great. I got a nothing card, and then I got, let's see, Warding Talisman. Flip this card over after rolling defense dice to add 2 shields to your results. This could be traded in for 50 gold as well. So that 50 gold can be important to buy other stuff. But I think for now I'll keep it. Great loot. And discard this one. Okay, so next I want to move Leoric. And I'm checking his little character sheet here. He moves 4 spaces. And let's see, he has the Rune Master ability. Okay, that kicks in when I roll an attack with the spell. And that is called Runic Knowledge. I don't want him to go ahead too much. Okay, and then next, and then I'm going to flip my little thing here to show that he moved. Next is my Knight, Sindriel. And she is going to move 4 as well. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Stay with the wizard. This gets discarded. That was my search token. And there is my Paladin. Alright. Okay, so now that the Overlord drew his card, we're going to move the goblins. So Master Goblin first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the most direct route. And in some games, by the way, these are water tiles, so they do have terrain effects for different things. I'm gonna check that in just a minute. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's gonna end up in the water, so I'm sure he has some kind of penalty. 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's see what happens. Alright, so the Overlord is going to draw 3 Overlord cards, and that's the maximum that he can have in his hands. And he will apply as many of them as possible to the creatures, or if they're traps, whatever the card says, he will apply it. If it can apply during a specific turn, he will. Cards that don't apply, that don't make sense for the situation, they stay in the hand until they can be applied. All right, so that's how I'm doing that. Those are the Overlord cards, and let's see what the Overlord has in store for me. I'm gonna flip all of the cards as if there was a person holding the hand. We have Tripwire, which is a trap. And play this card when a hero enters an empty space during a move action. Okay, so that'll be for next move. And the hero has to test an awareness test. Okay, he has to conduct an awareness test. All right. Event, Frenzy. Play this card when activating a monster during your turn. That's probably going to be now. That monster may perform an additional attack action this turn in addition to its normal 2 actions. So this is definitely going to the goblins. And dash, play this card when activating a monster during your turn. That monster may perform an additional move action this turn in addition to its normal 2 actions. So I'm going to give the dash to the master, and he may do an additional move action. Okay, and then this card gets discarded. It's placed face up next to the library. And then this one, play this card when activating a monster during your turn. That monster may perform an additional action to this turn in addition to its normal 2 actions. Now I already gave him 1, so he's going to get 1, and he's going to get an extra attack. He's going to have 2 attacks, he's going to have 1 attack. Alright, so for ranged, I count the range, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, and that's the number I need to beat to hit the closest hero. And the closest hero is either, for this one, is Sindriel. So that's the one that he's going to go for, is the elf Sindriel. Okay, and there we go. Alright, so he's 3 range away, so shouldn't be too bad. And he rolls his attack dice and power dice, and he has a 2, meaning the goblin misses. Alright, so this next goblin. Alright, now that's a 6 and a 1. That's a 7, and he's 1, 2, 3, 4 range away. So yes, that definitely hits with that 7. Okay. Alright, so in addition to that, he gets 1 surge. So let's see what the archer has for surge. Alright, the first one is Scamper. Gets +1 range. Alright, so we already know that he had enough range. So we go to the next one. Cowardly, which by spending 1 surge, he gets +1 heart, +1 damage. So he's going to do that one and spend that little lightning icon. He's going to spend 1 to get an additional heart. Now, there's 2 hearts, so he did 2 damage. +1 from Cowardly is 3. So, this hero, Leoric, gets 3 damage. Okay. Let's see if he can do something about that. So Leoric rolls 1 gray dice. There it is, 1 gray dice for defense. So he took 3 damage. So let's see what happens. He rolls a 1 shield, which means he blocks 1 of these damages. Alright, so he gets 2 damage instead of 3. Any other abilities? Alright. Each monster within 3 spaces of you receives -1. If he was 1 space closer, yes, -1 heart on all attack rolls. But he is a bit too far away, otherwise I could have used that hero ability. Okay, so Goblin does 2 damage. Leoric takes 2 damage, and he only has 6 left. Alright. So there we go. Now, that concludes that group of monsters, and now let's see what happens with the rest of the creatures. The goblins have moved. It is now the bar guests that will move, and they're going to move the quickest route towards the enemy, which is this way. So the bar guest is going to move 4. Put some here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And right here. There we go. Alright, so bar guests move. And let me just check the terrain a bit because I forgot about that. Alright, so the little goblin on the water space, because terrain does count in this game, has to spend an extra movement to get into that water space. Now, according to the Overlord card, he does get an additional attack action in addition to its normal 2 actions. However, he's going to have to use an extra movement action to get in there. So basically, he can only attack once because he's using up 2 movement actions, and then the Overlord card is going to give him the attack. Okay, so gotta remember that for the future. And then there's some boulder tiles. Whenever possible, the AI will avoid terrain effects, and that's why that Bargus went around. But in this case, Little Goblin didn't. That was kind of the best area he could move into, really. So this ends the Overlord turn, and that means round 1 is over. And now moving on to round 2, and this is the hero phase. Okay, so first things first, I can start any abilities. I want, let's see, I want to move Averick, and he's going to move towards one of the clergy markers that's injured. Alright, he hasn't taken any injury yet, so I'm not going to do any skills yet. I am going to refresh cards, but I don't refresh these because they're equipment. There's nothing else to really refresh. Skip that. Equip items. All my items that I want for Averick are equipped. So, and I'm going to perform my 2 actions. So first is movement. Okay, so Averick decides to move to the adjacent space. However, I have to stop him here because there is a trap card. Play this card when a hero enters an empty space. So as soon as he enters that empty space, he tests for awareness. If he fails, he must end his move action. And he can still suffer the fatigue to move further or perform a second move action if this was his first action. Alright, so I can suffer additional fatigue to get an extra movement. So he has to test for awareness. Alright, so Averick's awareness is a 2 right there, and I have to roll a black dice and a gray dice. I take a black and white dice and I roll it, and I need 2 or over. Okay, a 1 and a 2. That is a 3. So yes, he does it, and so he's fine. He can continue his movement. So Averick then moves the rest of his move. He can only move 3, so he'll move right there with the Acolyte, and then he is adjacent to that space, so he can rescue one of the clergymen, and they go on his card. They will become a reward later. Alright, and that's where he ends his movement. So next we're going to do Sindriel or the Wizard. Let's see. I think I'm going to do Leoric. Each monster within 3 spaces of you receive -1 heart on all attack rolls. Yeah, okay. I think he wants to do... He's going to move and then do a spell. He's going to move... let's see. The water costs extra movement. So he can move into the water. That costs 2 movement. And he stops right there. And then he can do Arcane Bolt. Arcane Bolt at the Master Goblin. So Arcane Bolt takes a blue dice and a yellow dice, and Surge, any Surge can be used to purchase either Piercing 2 or +1 range. Alright, so I'm just gonna exhaust that card, and let's see what happens. Blue dice and yellow dice. Okay, so we're gonna roll and see what he does. Okay, he does 4 hearts total, 2 surges. Let's see how he's gonna deal with that. So I can purchase the +1 range and the piercing 2 if I wanted to, but I'm gonna do the piercing 2. I don't really need the range. It is cumulative, so basically it ignores a shield, 2 shields. So the Master Goblin's gonna roll his defense, which is 1 die, 1 white die, gray die, white die. Alright, and he rolls 1 shield, but because it's piercing 2, it can ignore that 1 shield. So basically he's going to take 4 damage. And basically it also means that he is out of the game. So he's done. He's knocked out. Now last turn, because I didn't lose any goblins, and because it was the first turn as well, I was supposed to, let's see, after each round, this scenario grants reinforcements. Alright, so Sindriel is next, and this card is discarded. Okay, so Sindriel now is going to get to move, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, so she has 4 movement. So 1, 2, 3. That puts her in base-to-base contact. Now, her shield and sword are already equipped. Okay, and let's see. So red power dice, which is a little bit stronger. So cool. So I got a 2 on hearts on my power dice, and a 4 and a 2, and 2 more hearts as well. So 4 hearts all together. And that little goblin is gonna roll his defense of 1. Okay, so rolls 1. He blocked 1, so 3 damage goes through to the goblin. And if we see the stats here, he only has 2 health. That was it. All of my heroes now went. Everybody is activated. Okay, so now it is the Overlord turn. And let's see. He's going to get a hand of 3. So let's just see which cards he gets. Okay. So, Tripwire. Play this card when a hero enters an empty space. Okay. This is discarded. That was what Averick just did. Okay. So, Dark Charm, a magic. Play this card on a hero at the start of your turn. The hero tests for one of the attributes. I gotta check which one that is. Okay. And if he fails, you may perform a move or attack action with that hero as if he were in one of your monsters. Okay, so he takes control. So it would be Sindriel. I can do that. And she has to test an attribute, willpower. Okay, and that's the little sun icon. So willpower. Her willpower is 2. Okay. And that is a black and a gray dice. So let's see. Black and gray, 2 are over. A 4 and a 1, so yes, absolutely, she passes. Event. Play this card after you roll a dice. You may re-roll 1 dice. Alright, that's probably going to be next. And Pit Trap. Play this card when a hero enters an empty space. That's going to be next turn, probably. So I have 1 more card that the Overlord can use. Okay. So he's going to attack the elf. Okay. So one surge, the little lightning there, and 1 heart damage, plus a 6, 1 heart damage, and another surge. So he's gonna get the there's the +1 range, and then there's the +1 heart. So obviously he's gonna give himself the +1 heart. Okay, so that takes care of the surges, and then 2 damage. And let's see, I can re-roll 1 dice. 2. So now it increases hearts to 2. So this card is played and discarded. And we're going to do this one next. Okay. But first, I'm going to try to defend before I do that card. And I do not defend. So 3 hearts are going to go through. 3 damage for Sindria. Alright, and we now discard Dark Charm because I already rolled my willpower for it and passed. So that gets discarded. And now moving on to the Barghests. Alright, so Barghest is going to move towards the closest hero. They move at speed 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The most direct path. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right behind them. 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that's right near that search marker. Okay, so the Barghests are coming towards the fire pit. All right. So they're gonna come towards my flank in a minute. Okay, and that's the end of the Overlord turn. I have 1 pit trap here that can be used next turn as soon as a hero moves. And now I can take 2 goblins and reinforcements, and they get placed in the lair. Okay. So yeah, there we go. That's the board. And this is the position of the heroes. Avric, my paladin, right here. Leoric, my wizard, right here. And Sindriel, my elf knight, right there. Okay. So, and then that's it. Moving on to round 3. Alright, and now just turning the cards like this because they're easier to see. First things first, I'm going to refresh my cards. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do is Prayer of Healing. Okay, any hero, including myself, roll 1 power dice. Okay. And let's see, the power dice is 2. So any hero within 3 spaces may heal 2 health. And basically, Leoric is 3 spaces away. Okay, so Leoric can heal 2 health thanks to this ability. So I'm going to give him back his 2 health. And he is now at full health. Okay. And that's that. Next is the equipment stage. And so, oh, by the way, he's got to make his movement action. So I think he's only going to move 1, which is going to have him, let me see, 1, 2, 3. Okay. He's going to move 3 and grab the other villager token. Okay. Is Avric, my paladin. He moved in to contact little villager here, which is right here. And so he can grab that, and this way he'll get those rewards. And that is it. That is all he can do. He can't do his other action because he doesn't have a ranged weapon. What he can do, though, is make sure that his shield and mace are equipped. And they are, so we're good. Okay, and that's the end of his turn. So now, let's move the other heroes. So we have Leoric and Sindriel. So Leoric is going to move to support Avric. He moves total of 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, I'm going to put him here. And he does have line of sight. And he has his magic rune. Utilizes blue and yellow dice. So he's going to do a spell. And it is a ranged attack, so 1, 2. So he needs 2 or over on the dice in order to hit. A 5 and a 2. All right. So 5 and 2, meaning that yes, he does get it. So let's see. Okay. So that's 2 hearts. 2 damage from Arcane Bolt, and that has Pierce 2. Can ignore up to 2 shields that the Barghest rolls. He rolls 1 shield, which means he rolled 1 shield, so 1 is blocked, but I can ignore that because Arcane Bolt ignores up to 2 shields. So basically, he gets 2 damage, and that's this first Barghest here. Now, my hero did move, so he has to roll a willpower test. Let's just do that now. And he rolled a 1. His willpower is 2, so he fails. And basically, I'm going to fatigue him in order to keep him there so that I have the range and line of sight secured. So he is going to get a fatigue, which is fine. And he loses 1 damage. He loses 1 heart, 1 health. So 1 health back because he falls into a pit trap. Alright, so the Barghest also gets 2 damage from the spell after all is said and done. Alright, so a little bit out of sequence there, but it'll work. Okay, so Sindriel is going to move closer. I think I want people to stick together. No, okay, so I can do one thing, which is Rage. Perform an attack with a melee weapon. This attack gains +1 damage. So we are going to exhaust that. She gets a fatigue for doing that. So her weapon, she will now have Rage. And then make sure that her weapons are equipped, which they are. Okay, and going to move in to attack that goblin. So she rolled a 3 and a 2 hearts. So 4 damage all together. 4 damage and a 3. I have no surges, so I can't use surge. Okay, can't use the weapon's ability. So 4 damage goes through. Let's see what the goblin does. He only has 2 health. And he blocks 3. So now 1 goes through. And he has 1 damage left. Okay. Alright. And that is it for my turn. We now go to the Overlord. Okay, folks. Well, that's it for episode 1 of this game. This was a fun game. Descent is a board game that I've been trying to play since last year. Never got around to it because we had so many games and we were doing mostly Oathmark last year. So finally got to play this game. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed this game. And in part 2, we'll finish up and you'll see the conclusion to this intro game. Okay, this is the intro game of one of the scenario books, Scenario Book Act 1. Again, it's a fun game, and it gets harder and harder, and I have several of the expansions, so we can really explore this game from many different angles. I will be having a video, if anyone's interested in Descent, The Road to Legend, which is the phone app that you can get to play this game solo or co-op. And I also have a solo or co-op adventure that you can play manually as well. There's like a manual expansion. So we'll go over all that material in the future. And again, as I said, it's an interesting game. All right, folks, have a great one. And see you in part 2, episode 2 of this game.